How we doing?
Where you talked about the priorities.
Watching is
we will work with our partners and allies to deter
Senator
the
Angus
Pacific from the communist Chinese. There's not a
is
single
now
mention in
speaking
this
with,
statement
of
about
course, Pete
Ukraine or
Hegseth,
Russia.
who is
Is this
seeking
code for
confirmation
Ukraine?
for Secretary of Defense.
That's a presidential level policy decision. He's made it very clear.
I know what this feels like. I have been on
We know
Pete
who the answer is.
Hegseth's
We know who the good guy is.
in that
It's
seat
advantageous for the Ukrainians.
7 different times.
That word needs to come
You talk a lot about deterrence of China.
All right.
I would submit that Xi Jinping
7 different times.
We do very carefully. If we abandon Ukraine, that would be the strongest signal possible to Xi Jinping that he can take Taiwan without significant resistance from.
Wait 1 second. I just want to listen to. Yeah. So Angus King just finished.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter into the record two.
It is so transparent what's going on here. I mean, you have the chairman who, after every single Democrat, is now trying to introduce some sort of it's Rick Scott, someone who I don't particularly like. It's really amazing. After every Democrat, the chairman is introducing a letter which places Pete Hegseth onto a pedestal. And yet each and every defendant, hey Vienna, thank you for that biggie. Every single Democrat that has now gone ahead and questioned Pete Hegseth go right for the jugular, right? They go to his book, they go to the podcast, they go to statements that have been made, they go to statements that are made. But I'll tell you where Hegseth is making a mistake. And I am shocked for a guy who is as smart as he is. And let me be clear about this. Guy's fucking smart. That doesn't mean he should be the Secretary of the Department of Defense. Not my call, not your call, right? It's going to be this Senate, which of course, as we all know, is now controlled by Republicans, whether or not any of them will vote against him or whether they will just succumb to Trump and MAGA. But here's the mistake. There are certain facts which are inarguable, right? Inarguable. And when you fight those facts, which he's doing, it makes you look guilty. Just trying to get myself comfortable here. Obviously, you see I'm in a different room than I usually am. It's amazing to me. You see, one of the things that I remember when I was testifying one of the 7 times, and I'll talk about the one that many of you have seen, considering like almost 100 million people watched it, was the House Oversight Committee. When you do something wrong, just own it and say, yeah, I've changed my position onto it. Where he turns around and even his own mom provided testimony that was negative to him. All right? He denies having the affair. He refuses to allow the NDA to be released. He refused to meet with the Democratic coalition of the armed forces, the Senate Committee on the Armed Forces. He absolutely refused any of that. And that's a mistake. That's an absolute mistake. And why? And do me a favor, guys, hit these likes, do all that shit. We only have a short time left, my understanding, on TikTok. And yet, yeah, I know we hear that Elon Musk may end up buying this too. Let me tell you something. This country is going to be fucked when you have one person that owns every single, avenue of media. I mean, it's really something. We need, you don't want Elon, right, and so on, because technically he'll be more powerful than even the president of the United States, which I think Trump is beginning to see. If he buys it, and I'm with you, Cheyenne, I'm gone. But do me a big favor, hit those likes, because what it does is it sends out more messages to individuals that we're on, and we'll get more people here to join us as we sit and we watch this shit show, this complete and total shit show of Pete Hegseth trying
They
to
otherwise just want to work together. That's why I
rationalize
and I'll say it again.
somebody who
At
is
some point,
legitimately just,
the dumbest phrase in military history.
he's just
Our unity
not
is our strength.
the guy that Trump should have picked. Just my opinion. Listen, if he is, all right, he's going to be the guy in charge of close to $900 billion. Ronnie, whether you love Pete or not is irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
What your commitment is to the country. And that is my side.
Absolutely irrelevant.
Every single person that would put the uniform on.
What this is all about here is whether or not he's competent to lead 4 million people. Whether he's competent within which to deal with a budget of 900 billion.
To me, that's, I've run.
And the answer is, according to the
If you want
facts,
to get an audit done, you can get an audit done.
the facts.
You might get letters.
He's not.
Things you have to fix, but it all goes to accountability, and we.
All right, Ronnie, he'll do great. All right, and you know this how?
What you bring.
Just tell me, please, you know this
bring to the
how?
table, what you've done in the past.
Because you have a personal relationship with him, you have a connection to him. That
850 billion.
he fucked up. Really? This you happen to know?
Leadership.
I get it. You want to support Trump. I get it. By the way, every one of us should want to support our incoming president. Republican, Democrat, Independent alike. Everyone should be wanting to support the incoming presidency so that there's a benefit to America as we move forward from 2025 through 2029. Right? I mean, isn't that the way that it works? And yeah, I'm watching the hearing.
That will happen at the Pentagon. I mean, this has been a problem for a long time. Secretary Rumsfeld gave a speech on September 10th, 2001 that's mostly forgotten. But it was about the need for acquisition reform, cutting tail to give to teeth to warfighters. And then 9/11 happened. And these are problems that have been persisting for a long time. But now we have new threats.
No, my TV's not behind.
The urgency of this moment, as you said, Mr. Chairman, the most dangerous moment we've been since the end of the Cold War, possibly since World War II. The urgency to do everything possible to get the capabilities into the hands of warfighters.
You see,
emergency powers.
he's not wrong about
and an audit is
certain things.
Why do you want
As the United States of America, we do need to be.
You have 30 seconds.
We truly need to be
because I love my country.
Updated.
And I've dedicated
We need
my
to
life
be.
to the warfighter.
I'm watching C-SPAN.
People see me as
We
someone
need to
who-
be
on television.
technologically and militarily superior to everybody else because it's that fear
in this audience.
that basically gives
I yield myself
America
as much as I may consume.
the ability within which
Places you
to
can ever be in. You come back a different person. And only by the grace of God.
Control.
I'm here before you today.
if that's even the best word, which it's not, it gives America the ability to
All of them.
Thank you, Mr. Hegseth.
influence
Thank
others,
you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr.
right?
Hegseth, thank you. Thank you for your service. So if you're confirmed as Secretary of Defense, you will oversee our military, including about 250,000 women who currently serve on active duty in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force.
They're now
the
talking
Space
about-
Forces, and the Marines. And I have serious concerns that your behavior
This is,
toward women disqualifies you from serving in this role. Now, I've been trying to get answers from you for quite some time on this. You haven't wanted
There's
to
Senator Elizabeth
answer any
Warren,
questions. So we'll just
who just came right off the rip and said you're absolutely not prepared to be it, and goes into the whole women scenario, which we've heard. And why he's refusing to acknowledge that he said it, I don't know. It's written. I mean, he has it in his book. He has it in comments. They have it on audio tape. Why not just own it?
Going back to January
Own it.
2013, you told
And then just say,
Congress
yeah,
you
I
were
believe
military.
that in combat,
Simply couldn't measure
and he had a good answer
military
earlier, but he just
sitting around
didn't.
serving combat roles. Forced the military to lower
He just
the bar.
didn't.
We picked up on that same theme in
Oh, he just
2013
refuses to own it, and I don't get
Fox
it.
News, referring to women in combat as, quote, it would erode standards. June 2020.
Talking about the standards. Listen, any woman who can carry one of those 50 caliber machine guns 22 miles, as far as I'm concerned, should be capable of being in any division whatsoever.
We need moms but not in
Then
the
he turned around, he
military,
made statements about
especially
mothers should not be allowed to be in the military.
It's
See, these
your
are just
book
stupid
claimed that
comments.
Women should not be in combat roles, because men are distracted by women. And then 10 weeks ago, you appeared
Hey,
on the
Queen
Sean
Flea.
Ryan show and said, I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. Now, I presume you recall making all these statements?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the article you're pointing to in 2013, but it underscores my argument
got the
completely, because
video.
in that 2013 argument, I was talking about standards.
No, I've
Standards
got-
are what it's always
See, he's
been.
going right back. He's going right back to standards. You know, he's got
We've
his
got the video. We're happy
right.
to
He's got
show it.
his
But I
lines.
want to be clear here. For 12 years, you were quite open about your views, and your views were consistently the same. Women are inferior soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen,
I like
and
Michael Steele,
Armies.
except we're
And
part
in
of two
case
different
anyone
parties.
missed
That'd
the
be
point,
interesting,
these are
Republican and
her words
Democrat.
from 10 weeks ago. Women absolutely straight up
No, I have
should not be
no
permitted to
I have
serve
no,
in combat. And I notice on each of these
involvement
words,
any longer. I have a
it's
complete
without
discharge from
qualification. It's not like how much
Bureau
you
of
can
Prisons and
live
Department of
or how
Corrections.
fast you
I'm
can
absolutely
run.
100% done with everything.
In combat,
And John Kelly,
period, or your
you're a
words,
piece of
straight
shit.
up. And then,
In fact,
on
you're
November
such a
9th,
piece of shit, we're going to just get rid of you.
32 days after your last public comment saying that women absolutely should not be in combat, you declared that, quote, some of our greatest warriors are women, and you support having them serve in combat. Now, that is a very, very big about face in a very, very short period of time. So help me understand, Mr. Hegseth, what extraordinary event happened in that 32-day period that made you change the core values you had expressed for the
Look, I don't agree with a lot of the things that Elizabeth Warren stands for. I really don't. However, you got to acknowledge she's fucking prepared. That's the whole thing. The Democrats really came prepared because they're absolutely trying to crush this guy.
Let's just stop. Let's just
See,
stop.
she's not going to let him, as what's going on right now, she's not going to let him finish his speeches, which is all that he's doing. He's going with the same point.
In combat at all.
He stated women should not be in combat at all. She just wants to know, over the course of the last 45 days, what event in his life took place that got him to change his position to say women are the greatest fighters on the planet.
Have another description about your views of women in the military, and I just want to know what changed in the 32 days that the song you sang is not the song you come in here today to sing.
Senator, the concerns I have and the concerns that many have had, especially in ground combat units, is that in pursuit of certain percentages required.
By the way, you're right, KB. I've never been in combat. I have not. Maybe political combat. By the way, you know who else has never been in combat? Come on, schmuck. I know you can answer this one. Come on, KB. Come on, you fucking moron. Do it. Come on. Who else? That's right, Trump. That's right. That's right. Trump's closest to anything to do with the military was when he got sent there by his daddy to the New York Military Academy. But that's okay. That's okay.
That 32 days.
I was the one that had to try to explain that away.
Back to the old guy.
But what does that have to do with anything?
Straight up, women do not belong in combat.
What does that have to do with anything?
Now, Mr. Hegseth, you have written that after they retire, generals should be banned from working for the defense industry for 10 years. You and I agree on the corrosive effects of the revolving door between the Pentagon and defense contractors. It's something I would have liked to talk to you about if you'd come and been willing to visit with me. But the question I have for you on this
That's
is,
funny,
put your
Denise.
money where your mouth is.
And by the way, folks, do me a favor, please smash those likes, do whatever it is so that we start getting this community out there while we're going to go through this confirmation hearing. I'm really curious to see whether there's going to be
My motivation for this job.
I understand that.
whether there's going to be even one Republican that turns around and acknowledges the fact that Hegseth is not competent for this role. He's just not.
Every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. Are you not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander?
I would want to see what the policy of the
Oh, I'll
president is.
bet you would.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Senator Tuberville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your hard work and your committee's hard work, Mr. Chairman. This is going well. I'd like to submit this letter, topic conduct at Vets for Freedom for Hegseth. I'd like to submit that for the record, please.
Without objection.
General Hegseth, Mr. Hegseth, thanks for being here today and with your family. I know this is tough. That's what it's all about, though. You're a tough guy. Been here for a while. Never seen this many.
Now we got Tommy Tuberville from Alabama.
That's impressive.
He's just a total clown. No FDTs. No.
And congratulations on your
We're better than that. We're much better than that. And at the end of the day, again, on January 20th, Trump will be inaugurated as our president. So this is not that. This is a completely different. There's nothing to do with Trump. This right now has nothing to do with Trump. Oh, Tuberville is the biggest ass kisser on the planet. He's 100%. I mean, he'll talk about Pete Hegseth playing football before he talks about, any of the things that Hegseth had done wrong. The womenizing, the alcohol, the comments about women in the military, about the affairs, about putting the two or more foundations into bankruptcy, mismanagement, the whole 9 yards. He won't bring any of that into it. This is all about now blowing smoke up Hegseth's ass because it's all about appeasing, knowing that Trump is watching this. Right, so that's what it is. But I'm dying to see one Republican turn around and ask him one simple question about his. Why not just as a Republican ask, how come you didn't meet with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle?
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, Tommy Turdville is right.
Weapon, obviously protecting us and our allies.
Why?
And the first week they're back.
Why not turn around and say, why can't you meet with our colleagues at the other side of the aisle? We would want, if it was the other way around, we would want you to meet with us. I did. I heard him call him general. He's a schmuck. Total schmuck.
And it starts with recruiting.
He was joking because Liz Warren brought up an issue
you couldn't afford to go to college. You had the opportunity to go to the military where you could learn a trade.
Elizabeth Warren brought up an issue about how generals should be banned. And this is a Trump thing. For 10 years after they leave the military from sitting on boards or being part of any of the process. And that is something that Trump talked about. And I'm not 100% against it, by the way, either.
Thank you for taking this on. Recruiting. Our service academies are meant to serve as our primary commissioning source of officers. It now appears that they are a breeding ground for leftist activists and champions of DEI and critical theory. Now, not all, but some. And some is way too much. How are we going to eliminate this, Mr. Hegseth? How are we going to get this back on track to where we grow our leaders? I had a young man that forever he wanted to go to West Point. I got him a nomination, I got him accepted, and he turned it down. He says, Coach, I'm not getting involved with that mess. How are we going to overcome this?
Senator, thank you for the question. And I think it comes down to leadership, clear leadership. From President Trump through me, should I be nominated? And that's what soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians see, is clear leadership.
I'm going to jump off. I just got a second notification. I'll be back in about 1 minute.
be the senator, except we're lucky enough to be here. But let me read you what the qualifications of the Secretary of
I was
Defense
never
is.
part of MAGA. MAGA didn't exist when I was with Trump.
It's hard to see, but in general, the U.S. Secretary of Defense position.
And no, he does not. So, Desert Fox, great question. Donald does not qualify for any misdemeanor impeachment or anything like that.
You have to be retired.
He absolutely does not.
And Congress can weigh that.
And you know what? If we're going to start out come January 20th, like the way that they did in 2017, it's going to be a real ugly 4 years.
The military industry, and yet your own secretary that you all voted for,
It's going to be a very ugly 4 years.
to vote on a waiver because he stepped off the board of Raytheon. But I guess that's okay because that's a Democrat Secretary of Defense. But you so quickly forget about that. And then Senator Kane, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign for their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it because I know you have.
Yes, I know. By the way, Mullen's not wrong on this one. When I worked on the Hill, I used to see members of congressmen and senators shit-faced drunk. He's not wrong about that. But that's secondary. They're not the ones that are being asked to be confirmed.
The hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And Jennifer, thank you for loving him through that mistake. Because the only reason why I'm here and not in prison is because my wife loved me too. I have changed, but I'm not perfect. But I found somebody that thought I was perfect. And for whatever reason, you love Pete, and I don't know why. But just like our Lord and Savior forgave me, my wife's had to forgive me more than once too, and I'm sure you've had to forgive him too. And so thank you. So before I go down this rabbit hole again, tell me something about your wife that you love.
She's the smartest, most capable, loving, humble, honest person I've ever met. In addition to being incredibly beautiful. Don't forget about your kids. I'm supposed to talk about my kids?
No, well, she's also the mother.
Oh, an amazing mother.
Yes.
Of our blended family of 7
Brother,
kids.
I'm pulling you
Which
slow.
love her.
I'm trying to help you here. You know, do you believe that you're going to be running the Secretary or the Department of Defense by yourself?
Senator, absolutely not. Just as President Trump is assembling his cabinet, I look forward and already am in the process of building one of the best possible teams you can imagine with decades and decades of experience outside of the Pentagon, driving innovation and excellence, and also inside the building, knowing how to make it happen. Yes, sir.
So, in your organizations that you did have the privilege of running, did you have a board that you...
In both organizations, we had a board, yes.
Okay, and what did you do with that board? What kind of decisions did you make with that?
Those boards provided oversight and insight into decision-making.
Especially you.
Level 11, who are also devoting a significant portion of your time to developing the next generation and the next group of lawyers. We always want to be mindful of
Hey, how are you?
we all have a certain amount of career path and time with the office, and making sure that knowledge is transferred, right? We want to make sure that skills are transferred.
What's expertise with?
Senator, the only reason I've had success in life, to include...
When you get a chance, turn on your camera.
Because of people more capable around me and having the self-confidence to empower them and say, hey, run with the ball, run with the football, take it down the field. We'll do this together. I don't care who gets the credit. And in this case, that's how the Pentagon will be run.
Let me end with this, Mr. Chairman, about the qualifications. You got a man who has literally put his butt on the line. He served 20 years in service, multiple deployment. Has a crack over the top of his head.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, how are
Has
you?
been willing to go into
All right. Here's hoping the Wi-Fi holds up today.
Right?
friends
Yeah.
die.
On a second.
and he's willing to still put himself through this.
I'm right out of bed like 5 seconds ago.
Knowing he wasn't perfect, knowing that all this was going to be brought up.
You don't look like you just got out of bed.
Country.
Well,
What other qualifications does he need?
yeah, I grew 2.5 feet of hair and dyed it pink last year for you.
Oh, for me. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Hey, are you watching the hearings?
You know, I'm actually just listening through you. I've been following along a little bit on Twitter. But
look, I know what it's like. You know, when you have 50% of the committee are going to shred you to pieces, the other 50 are going to try to, you know, blow you up, you know, in terms of elevate you.
Yeah.
He did not have 7 years of interruption between his service and his appointment. Second point is that if any of us were appointed as Secretary of Defense, we would be subject to the same questions. The case in point is Senator John.
You know, yesterday you said you were doing a radio show tomorrow.
I am, with Jesse Jackson Jr.
All right.
Responsibilities despite his service, and he was voted down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Duckworth, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And also Secretary Mattis had to have this waiver as well.
They have now Tammy Duckworth is coming up.
You are qualified to be Secretary of Defense. And one of the qualifications, to answer my colleague's question, is to actually win the votes of every member of this committee and to be confirmed by the United States Senate. And you need to convince us that you're worthy of that vote, because the people of the state of Illinois voted for me to be their senator so that I could cast that vote when it comes to picking who is going to be the next Secretary of Defense. This hearing now seems to be a hearing about whether or not women are qualified to serve in combat, and not about whether or not you are qualified to be Secretary of Defense. And let me just say that the American people need a SecDef who's ready to lead on day one. You are not that person. Our adversaries watch closely during times of transition, and any sense that the Department of Defense that keeps us safe is being steered by someone who's wholly unprepared for the job puts America at risk. And I am not willing to do that. With that in mind, Mr. Hegseth, I want you to try to explain to the American people, this committee, who have to vote for you, and to our troops who are deployed around the world, why you are qualified to lead the Department of Defense. We already know that you've only led as large as a 200-person organization. We already
got it on my TV now.
Mangled a budget that after you left, they had to bring in a forensic accountant to figure out what went wrong. And the largest budget you ever managed was about $18 billion. You know, that is about 51,560 times lower than the Department of Defense budget of $825 billion. $16 million is 51,568 times smaller. Please describe to me, Mr. Hegseth, you talk about DOD passing an audit. Please describe to me a time.
Yeah, I watch a lot of politics with my wife, by the way, a lot.
You underwent an audit. Did you say you're going to hire smarter people?
Right now, Cindy, my wife is actually out playing canasta.
I want you to be able to tell.
Otherwise, she'd be here watching this with me. She has a lot of opinions on all of this, too.
What happened if, whether or not you passed that audit? Have you led an audit of any organization? Yes or no? I don't want a long answer. Yes or no? Have you led an audit of any organization of which you were in charge?
Senator, in both of the organizations I ran, we were always completely fiscally responsible.
Yes or no? Did you need an audit?
And the way
yes or no? Did you need an audit? Yes or no?
Completely
what are you afraid of? You can't answer this question. Yes or no? Did you need an audit? Do you not know this answer?
Senator,
yes or no?
Of my leadership
yes
of these
or no?
I want to be him right now.
I would take that as a no. What were the findings? So there were no findings because you've never led an audit. What guidance did you give?
Yeah, I miss working for Trump. I stated that when I was on the stand. I enjoyed my time at the Trump Organization. I worked on incredibly complex real estate and financial matters, far greater than what you could even understand. And where, you know, people want to get smart and say, oh, yeah, you didn't know. Let me be very clear. There were things that he had me working on that I had no idea at the beginning on what to do. So I studied on it, like capping 1,000-acre, hey, Serena, like capping a 1,000-acre landfill and making a greenfield remediation project. I've never done anything like that. I had to learn about the creation and the installation of something called passive methane gas collection systems. I actually figured out at the same time how to take the methane, have it burnt, and create energy. And this was for New Jersey, where we were going to get all sorts of financial credits for that too. In fact, I also had to learn on the removal of leachate from the Passaic, which is the waterway in New Jersey, which was filled with leachate, which is a thick, viscous gel that emanates from under the ground as a result of landfills, because all the stuff, all the shit gets smushed down, so it becomes like this gunk, and it fills up. So you take it, and here's what we found out that we were able to do with it. Hey, you're on mute, by the way. So here's the thing that we figured out that we were able to do. We were able to take the leachate and burn it. And that if you burn it at a certain temperature, you know what it becomes?
What?
Sand. And so we were using it and making sand for the coastline. Right? I mean, and it's pure sand because there's no impurities. It's burnt at the leachate is burnt at a very high, and yeah, it creates sand, and that's what we did. And on top of that, we were required to purchase landfill that was non-contaminated, which is basically almost impossible, but we were doing that, and we had 50, 60 trucks out there at any given time. Trump used to refer to it when we would show him the videos of it as like the Great Dig of Egypt, because there was so much activity going on there. Ultimately owned by a hedge fund, and I made tens of millions of dollars for Trump for mine and others' involvement in the landfill, and we got this thing moving. We would have had 10,000 apartments on there. We had a golf course. It was fantastic what we were doing. It was the state that fucked that up. But then again, that's politics, and it was okay. We made money onto it, and Trump was more than satisfied with it. But my point is, there's things that, yeah, I'll acknowledge Pete Hegseth doesn't have to be the former CEO of, say, JP Morgan in order to be able to run the thing. He certainly is military, former military. But there's more to this than just being able to balance a checkbook, right? There's also ideology. And anybody who believes that a woman is not capable of running or being a part of the military apparatus, that's a real problem. All right? That's the whole problem. That's where somebody really has some significant issues, and that they are not competent. It's not about whether he can or he cannot balance the checkbook here. Chances are he probably cannot. So he'll have an entire team of individuals that will be doing that. The Department of Defense is massive. No one person can do it. But it's his ideology on women and gay and transgender, and it's his belief in military usage of methods that are against, for example, the Hague Convention and so on, like waterboarding. Remember something. There are American prisoners as well. And none of you understand, or most, I believe, don't understand what it means to have your freedom taken from you. Most of you won't ever be able to understand what it feels like to spend 51 days in solitary confinement. None of you will be able to understand that, all right? And so, understand that you will also most probably never understand what it must feel like to be waterboarded, okay? There's a reason why it is outlawed. And that reason, all right, is because it's inhumane. It just is. It's torture. And you don't want to hear about an American ever being waterboarded by one of our enemies because they end up being captured. All right? You don't want to hear about that. Neither do I. And so that's where I stand on that.
Well, let me just say that everything you went through, it shows how strong you are. So.
Well, you really have no choice. It's not like you have a choice about being weak or strong. It doesn't really work that way. It's kind of like, your teacher tells you on Thursday, it's a Monday. She tells you on Thursday you're having a math test. That day is coming and you're taking that test, right? You get through it one way or the other. Either you do well or you don't do well. A lot of people don't do well. A lot of people think that they do well, but in the long run, they don't anyway. It's torture. Anybody who wants to read up on solitary confinement, you'll learn that it has been determined to be a form of mental torture, which many are calling for it to be outlawed, unless for the most violent of criminals. You don't put somebody in solitary confinement because they paid money to a porn star not to talk about a guy's mushroom pecker. Let's be real about that. All right.
Yeah. There's no positive benefit for doing that to someone like
Andy, you did 7 weeks in solitary.
A lot of people have in the chat today.
Well, that's what they say. That's 44 days. Tell me, what were you in solitary for?
How did you get through it, Michael?
I don't know. I really don't know. Like I said, you just do. I read a lot. I read like 97 books. Anything you can get your hands on, you're reading. Fortunately, by law, they have to give you your mail. And there were so many great people out there that would send me, books from Amazon, the newest books. Sometimes I used to get, seconds and thirds of the same ones, which I used to hand out to even like the correctional officers, especially the one that had my picture on it. The book is inaccurate, but it had my picture on it, called The Fixer. Throw it out, put it in the library, do whatever you want with it. And they were like, thank you. And I know they took them home, which is great. And that's what I wanted. Some of the correctional officers were such great people, and others were such miserable motherfuckers. Yeah, miserable motherfuckers.
To deliver their young men and women. There's no more.
I want to see what Senator Budd.
So shifting gears a bit, I want to hear some of your thoughts on the growing fighter aircraft capacity gap with China and what this means for the fight in the Indo-Pacific.
Hey, my last question about your show tomorrow. Where do I listen on the radio tomorrow?
Maintenance of
I'm gonna post it. I'll post it even here. It's KBLA in Washington, in California. He's part of that whole. And I think it starts at like 4 o'clock is when I go on with Jesse Jackson Jr.
I'll look for it.
Prototype released.
Thanks.
A dangerous development, considering at least the publicly understood condition of NGAD, which I look forward to the opportunity to look underneath the hood on that. But ensuring 4th and 5th are capable and upgraded as necessary will be a part of our contingency. But when you look at what's happening in the Pacific,
this is where Hegseth would have had some strength when he talks about how we need to ramp up our military in terms of planes and ships and weaponry. We absolutely do. And that's where he should turn around and say, I plan on focusing my attention and so on. By the way, cuz whatever the hell your name is, schmuck, Trump already won. We're in 2025. Let me see if they're even a bot. They are 31 followers. You see, this is the whole problem. I'll end up, just keep eliminating these people.
That's it. Maybe one day. The day's not now, and certainly not before 2027, especially in the Indo-Pacific.
If we do move over to YouTube, let me mod for you. I'll take care of them.
Through the proper mix of fighters manned and
Okay.
I look forward to working with you on that, Senator, because unmanned will be a very important part of the way future wars are fought. Just the idea of survivability for a human being drives cost and time in ways that unmanned systems do not. But I look forward to that conversation, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Budd. I now recognize Senator Reid for a unanimous consent request.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask unanimous consent that 2 letters be submitted for the record. One letter signed by numerous organizations, including the Government Accountability Project, the other signed by several organizations.
Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
How extensive are these candidates prepped for these hearings?
Senator Rosen got here after.
How expensive or what?
How are like the candidates prepped for these hearings? Do they go into
So they
mock
do. They
hearings?
bring in counsel, and they bring in murder boards, and they bring in. I know I did. I mean, I had 2 attorneys that were working with me on this. On top of that, we brought in an outside group to come forth with murder boards, and it's all at the individual's expense.
Of this committee prior to this.
Nobody provides you with anything. Ray, what's your point about MAGA?
So let me tell you a little.
Are you trying to let us know that you're MAGA? Is this is this like a mating call for MAGA females? I mean, you have two women here on on the show. Is that a mating call for you? I'm not sure.
The reliability of our nuclear stockpile without the need for explosive testing. The Nevada National Guard is one of the few only.
Hannah, what were you in for, by the way?
The mission of fighting wildfires for another hearing, and currently activated to fight the devastating fires around Los Angeles in support of our neighbors. We therefore play a critical role in our national security, and the person who holds the position of Secretary of Defense matters greatly to Nevada service members and our military equities. But every single person who serves in the military, we've talked about, Christine Paul, you talked about recruitment and retention.
And the bots are incredible.
One day, they will become a veteran. So my veteran,
Mega forever.
the folks who are serving active duty now are concerned about what you think. DOD does not have jurisdiction over
I think of MAGA as during your ads on Beatdown, making advertising great again.
Exactly right.
Out of the military, given the influence you would have while they're in service, to confirm. In 2019,
Right. User 288's not a bot with his 15 followers. You're right. You know what? If you're not a bot, you're just a loser. So we'll just get rid of you.
You stated you don't want to quote
It's amazing that these guys even know how to spell MAGA correctly.
injuries or illnesses that might have arisen in your military service. So I'm just going to ask.
All righty. Shai, I'm going to drop you down. I'm going to end up calling this thing quits.
One thing real quick, I'll be in touch about my live with you.
I know. I keep getting all your texts. I know.
Hey, yeah, I don't give up until I get what I want. All right, I love you, Michael.
Wow. She is hands down the most compulsive. When she wants what she wants, she knows she'll get it. That's why she keeps pushing.
Deserve the benefits they have. Many battles with traditional veteran service organizations.
Serena, you watching these hearings?
Yes, I have been.
What's your take so far?
VSO is a very broad term. VSO also.
I always look at the emotional side of things, and it's just very cringy. And I don't know how to put it. I hear both sides of the story.
Yep.
And I don't feel, that Pete should do it, but I think he is going to get through. There was one question I had, though. One of the congressmen said one of Biden's first things that he did was make sure that people who are serving could have transgender therapy or transgender surgery. Is that true? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know. I truly don't know. I don't waste my time with that sort of horse shit. I truly don't care. I do know that, believe it or not, in the Bureau of Prisons, there are individuals who go through transgender surgery, and I believe the BOP ends up paying for it, which I just thought was absolutely insane. By the way, I don't think the military should be paying for transgender surgery either. No more than they should pay for you to get, a nose job. Assuming, of course, that you didn't end up getting your nose broken by some sort of an accident, right? And here you're just setting it so that you could breathe. That's a different story. But transgender surgery, what? I mean, I don't get it. I don't see the correlation. Now, when you're in the military, you do have insurance. Well, if that's, if that's part of the insurance plan, okay, so be it. I mean, I have a hard time getting my migraine medication from my insurance every goddamn 3 months. The doctors have to send in, these forms and it goes back 20 years. I said, I don't go back 20 years. I'll go back literally 55 years when, I was first treated at the age of 5. I shouldn't say 55 because that would be a lie. I'm only 58, so 53 years. The first time I ever saw a pediatric neurologist was at the age of 5 for cluster migraines. So they want, and the only thing that actually works, the only one so far that I have found that works is Ubrelvy. The only thing that works, and they bust my ass every few months regarding, because it's expensive. I don't give a shit. Right? Instead, I don't take it as the way I'm supposed to, because I need to ensure that I have left over if the cluster becomes a full cluster, as opposed to just having a migraine, which after, 53 years you learn to live with. But, it's the only thing that works for me. I have never tried Nurtec, but I'm very satisfied with this Ubrelvy. And now I don't say it's good for everybody. I'm just talking about myself. But I hear good things about Nurtec also. I think my mom takes Nurtec, and this is terrible. And if you want to buy it, it's like $100 a pill. It's a joke.
Who's reinvigorated baby lines, who's stood behind Israel in every way.
Now, Michael, you've sat in front of a panel like we see today.
7 times.
What is it like? Can you share the experience, like waiting to go in?
So
how does it feel?
It's fucking miserable. All right, it's miserable. Every committee is basically, and it's been this way for a very long time, plus or minus 1 or 2 from each party, the party that has the majority versus the party that's in the minority. So let's say in this specific case, there's 100 senators that need to vote on Hegseth, when I was there's like 100 members of the Senate Permanent Select Committee, the House Permanent Select Committee, the Senate Judiciary, the House Oversight Committee, all of these. They all have like 100 people to them on these committees. Plus or minus 1 or 2, 50% of them are Republican and 50% are Democrat. So and it goes 1 to 1, 1 to 1, 1 to 1 until the very end when they double up, whether it's Republican or Democrat. And based upon who's going to be speaking, which member of Congress is going to be speaking, whether you're going to get smashed and beaten up or you're going to get some form of a reprieve. That, like right now, they have Senator Eric Schmidt, all right? And he's obviously Republican. He's a big Trump supporter, and he's going to go ahead and he's going to blow a ton of smoke up Hegseth's ass, right? Because they all know that Donald is watching right now, and everybody is being judged based upon that. All right? It's how MAGA, how Donald, how whatever it is that you are.
And wokeness.
The attacks that come against you are relentless. And they think that they know. They think that they know the answers to what they do. I found that too many of the Republicans were going off of misinformation in the questioning of me, whereas the Democrats came with precise questions that were predicated off of the documents that I had provided to both parties, Republican and Democrat, to the majority and to the minority leader. So everybody had it. But for whatever the reason is, they didn't, the Republicans didn't really want to ask questions that would do anything other than to try to denigrate me. So they get 5 minutes to ask their questions. Those 5 minutes were name calling, talking about, your conviction, going to prison. It was one after the other after the other. Okay. And it's miserable after a while. Don't say that. Where you have to listen to the same shit over and over and over again. And this is the mistake of both sides in the party. Don't ask the same question twice. They should all get together and they should prepare, let's say, 1,000 questions. Not that hard, right? So everybody gets 10 questions.
Students who might say mom and dad.
And try to get through as many of them as you possibly can. So if you're number 1, you start 1 through 10. Maybe you only get through 6. So the next guy goes 7, 8, 9, 10 on the Democratic side. Republicans should do the same thing. Instead, they ask the same stupid question over and over and over again, and it is draining. When you walk out of there, mind you, the time that you saw me on television with the House Oversight Committee, that was on a Thursday. The day before, I testified for also 9 hours. I testified before the Senate Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. You know what? That was exhausting. Then I did the live one. And on Friday, the day after, I did the House Permanent Select Committee. I did 27 plus hours of testimony in 3 days. And then I had to come back the following, Tuesday, Wednesday, because the Republicans and the Democrats were fighting so much that hours and hours were spent between their back and forth between, it was like Adam Schiff and Jim Jordan. And they were fighting, whoever the hell it was, or Devin Nunes. They were fighting back and forth so much that it was horrible. And I was like, maybe you guys should have figured this shit